it's Andrew Huang, and this is the Endorphines Shuttle System. This is a desktop modular synthesizer that Endorphins recently sent over for review. Thank you, Endorphins. I've had it for a couple months, and I've been learning the ins and outs of it, and I have to say, it is very powerful, it sounds amazing, and it's just pure joy to work with. So I'm gonna be sharing a bunch of music I've made with it, as well as taking a look at a lot of its features. Can we just start though by talking about how pretty this is? I love synthesizers. I find most of them really compelling, but this one has a particular pull for me. It's got this interesting yellowy gold faceplate. The case has a really neat design, and there are also all these fun little details printed onto the plate, like a cow being abducted by aliens, a little mushroom. I like the Illuminati oscillator. Endorphins is a company that cares deeply about design. I even read an interview where they were talking about the kerning of their text. And that design is aesthetic, but it also carries through to the functionality of the synthesizer that they've really put a lot of thought into. It's a gorgeous first impression, and then you get a little closer and you see that, oh, it's also like kind of cute and playful, which is also how I would describe myself. All right, so let's actually break down what this does. The shuttle system is made up of 5 modules that are actually all available for sale individually, but in the system, they are all underneath this single faceplate. And it's a little bit weird for me. The signal flow goes from right to left. I don't know why, but that's the order that we will take a look at these modules. Shuttle Control is kind of the brain of the thing. It's where you plug in power, and it's where you get a lot of connectivity between the outside world and the shuttle system. There's a B-type USB port to connect to a computer and 2 A-type USB ports to connect to MIDI controllers. And with these 2 red buttons, you can scroll through presets that will determine what these 16 outputs do. So there's a whole bunch of control that can come in here from your MIDI devices, an iPad, your computer. And with your computer connected, you can also use Endorphins web editor to completely customize what every single output does. So if Shuttle Control is like the brain, I would call the further generator the heart of the system. This is what is called a complex oscillator. It's a West Coast bookless-style pair of oscillators where one modulates the other. We've got the modulator here, we've got the carrier here, and this is the wave shaping section, which is another component that makes up a complex oscillator. The big dials set the frequency of each oscillator. Both of them are constantly outputting a number of different waveforms at the frequency you set. Most of the waves are just raw and are very useful that way, but then these 2 Illuminati outputs are the ones with all the modulation. Maybe I shouldn't call them that. That's where the wave shaper will come into play. These knobs change the harmonic content of the signal, and they can add really nice distortion. And it's also where you'll hear any modulation done by the modulator oscillator on the carrier oscillator. So 2 analog oscillators with wave shaping. Let me show you how awesome this can sound. The next 2 modules are very interrelated, so I'm gonna look at both of them at once. Grand Terminal is this kind of mega multi-function module. It's got these 2 symmetrical sections that are the function generators, so you can get envelopes and LFOs out of them. Down the middle are 2 filter channels, and each one has 8 different modes. And then kind of inconspicuously at the top here, you've got some controls for some built-in effects. There's a whole bunch of different flavors of reverbs and delays built into this module. Now the gateway module is like an expander for the Grand Terminal. These switches and outputs in the middle expose some of the under the hood functions. These 2 sections at the top and bottom are identical, and they're actually oscillator tuners. So you plug in 2 oscillators, hit this button, and it automatically matches their pitch. You can also use those as just mixers. You can mix 2 channels together, whether it's audio or CV, and I've found that actually is quite handy in my patching with the system. Lastly, we have this tiny little module called Cockpit, which is basically just a 4-track mixer. But Endorphins has actually gotten kind of clever with it and implemented some unique things. There's a sidechain input with some different modes that you can boot up the system into, so you can do really easy audio ducking. The 4 black knobs are the volume controls for the 4 channels. The LEDs change in brightness to indicate what volume you have them set at. What's cool though is that you can press each one of the knobs and they will mute. You'll know they're muted because the LEDs have turned red, but you can still adjust the volume and the LEDs will still dim and brighten. So that can be pretty handy. So that is the Endorphins Shuttle System. It is a beautiful instrument. I've had so much fun with it. If I were pressed to find some faults with it, there are really only a couple things that I could say. Firstly, it's complicated. I think that's kind of unavoidable anytime you want to pack so much functionality into a system. The benefit you get in power and control and flexibility also translates into a steeper learning curve, and I did read the manual for all of these modules cover to cover so that I could fully appreciate how to use it. And then the unavoidable second con would be the price, of course. This is a boutique synthesizer. It's expensive. I think most retailers have it at around $2,500. But you know, you're dealing with a small company. I think Endorphins is like 3 people who design and code everything. They even silk screen all of the faceplates. It's high quality components from the metal housing to the analog circuitry inside. And it's just a beautifully thought out system that I think any synthesist would enjoy for years and years. So that is my review of the Endorphins Shuttle System. Endorphins are offering a couple of their autopilot modules as part of my current giveaway. There's also a bunch of other stuff in this giveaway. You can find more information about that in the description. I hope you enjoyed this review and all the music today, which is currently available on my Patreon. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back in a little bit with a new video.